Well, good morning, friends. So I know originally I had said I was going to do daily transformation, and that is way too much for me. So I'm doing weekly transformation, and this is week 2. So that allows me to have some time to marinate some of the work I'm doing and kind of share some of the ups and downs along my journey. I do have something big coming up tomorrow, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to share some news with you, and I will be doing that next week, obviously. So I just keep doing the work, and I was hoping to have some more mystical experiences. I did have one that I will share with you, and I had recorded, so I'll probably just drop that into this video. But I really have I don't want to say uneventful, but it has been sort of uneventful meditations. Of course, I know that that's what it looks like on the surface, but underneath of that, there's definitely things going on, and really, really good things going on, and I know that. So I'm just continuing to do that. And some of the things that I've been working on is becoming aware of the times that I dip into the darker thoughts, and whether it's for the one story that I'm working with or the other story. So I noticed these two things sort of circulate. One of them is a little bit easier to deal with. The other one, I sort of go unconscious and slip a little bit more. And so I've really become familiar with the discord between what's going on in my body and what's going on in my mind, at least for the one story. The other story, it's so funny, I had something happen this morning and I slipped into just speaking as the old self, and then caught myself, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is what I'm doing. This is no different than the other thing that I'm working on. One of the things is related to health anxiety, and I will share the story of those two things just to give people some context, so it's not like I'm being cryptic. One was due to a trauma that I had 8 years ago, that I would like to say that's the old story because I don't want to bring it into the new me. And certainly from a month ago, I'm not the person that I was even then. But the old story was basically that 8 years ago, I lost my mom to pancreatic cancer. And it was so traumatic for me, and it was so terrible and so awful. And I was her caretaker, and I slept at the hospital, and I wrote an entire memoir about this experience and what it did. And I actually felt the shift inside of me from this, sort of like light, happy-go-lucky being to a very, very different person, very quickly, and living in an extreme state of health anxiety for so, so long. And experiencing things like different symptoms and having things come up in my life that, looking back, are probably directly related to the shift. It's funny when I look back on it now, because recently there was a testimonial from Dr. Joe Dispenza's website or YouTube of a guy who had exactly the same thing that my mother had, which I believe that divinely my mom sent this testimonial to me because it was so exact that it could have been her. Like, it literally, the diagnosis, the way that it had spread and everything. So I listened to his testimonial, and I listened to it actually quite often to remind myself that it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And so I look at it totally different now. And but I was so consumed by that, it kind of manifested differently for me in terms of the fear, but the health anxiety is something that I'm looking to change completely. And I do think that when the power is in your hands and when you feel empowered, then that changes your outlook on those things. The second story that really has been playing out for the last 25 years for me is something that happens to a lot of people. I grew up pretty wealthy, not celebrity status or anything like that, but wealthy for where upper middle at the time. And then we had a financial loss, and that financial loss was very, very great. It was big and grand, and it took over my life to the point that I shifted all of my beliefs from healthy beliefs with money to lack. And so for the last 25 years, I've been living out of lack, and didn't realize that that was a story that was playing out until I started doing this work and realizing that this was just a belief that had taken hold and was running rampant, no different than disease, and so those are the two stories that were playing out in my life for a very long time. And I decided I had something come up about a month ago now that brought me a great source of fear and health anxiety. And I decided that this was the time that I could no longer be either of those people. I couldn't be the person who was living from that 20 plus story or the person from the 8 years ago story. When I decided that firmly, I realized there's just no going back. It doesn't matter if you get a clean bill of health or, there's just no going back. So that was my stories that I no longer want to identify with in any way. And that's what I'm working on, is breaking that. The unknown feels like a scary place to be until you feel empowered. And then when you feel empowered, it doesn't really feel that scary anymore. It feels sort of exciting. And I think that is a shift that a lot of people want to make. And I feel very thankful that I've had a long time to marinate this stuff. So I did have not my first mystical experience. I've had other mystical experiences, but this was the first one I had during a meditation. And I was laying there. I had done half the meditation sitting up, and then I went and lay down for the last half of the meditation because my back was really hurting and I just needed more relaxation. So as I was sitting there, I could hear Dr. Joe, and he's talking in my ear. And then I hear these voices. These other voices are speaking. And I can't really make out what they're saying, but I can hear them. And it sounds like a lot of different voices. So I hear these different voices, and then all of a sudden I hear a radio playing. It sounds like one of those muffled old transistor radios, and I can't make out what's being said either. So there's 3 different voice situations. There's Dr. Joe. Well, there's Dr. Joe, there's the music, there's the voices that are muffled over here, and then there's a transistor radio type sound. I can't make out what they're saying, what's being said there. It almost sounded like a ball game, but I don't know. And all of a sudden I feel myself lift out of my body, and I get really scared because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe for a second. And I lift out of my body and I see a really bright light, and I know what everyone's thinking, you were dead. But I wasn't. And I feel myself ripping away, almost webbing. But it was my body. So it was ripping out of my body. It was a very strange experience. And I got really scared. And so I went back into my body really quickly. And I knew that it was an out of body experience. I knew that because I lifted my hand and I was like, you're going to look at your body. You're going to get really scared. And I kept telling myself, it's safe, you're safe, you can't disconnect from your body, you're not going to go into a coma, you're okay. So I allowed myself to do it again, and I like ripped through the meat suit, I guess you would say. And then I saw the bright light again. It was super, super bright. And I felt like I was going into a room. So it was strange. It was almost like a waiting room, but it wasn't. And there was a voice. And the voice was not male or female. It was sort of like an in-between voice. I don't know how to explain it except for to say that it was sort of odd sounding. And the voice said, "You are a good writer." And then I said, "Thank you." And then I got scared that I was too long out of my body, and I went right back into my body, and I made myself get up. I am an author, so I write romance fantasy under Stella Jade, and I write children's books and other books under Stephanie Milan. So I was really appreciative to hear that confirmation from the other world, or a divine being. But I was a little scared of that experience, but also my conscious mind knew to calm myself down. So it was a very strange, but it was a mystical experience, and it was really cool. And honestly, I know people say that they chase it after that. I have been, because as much as it scared me to do it, I absolutely loved it. It was really cool. Another mystical experience that I had was I usually take my animals out of my room because they jump. My cats will jump on me. If my dog's in there, they'll all jump on me. I guess they love meditation. And but they're very distracting, and I don't want any distractions, so I move them out of the room. And I'm sitting in my meditation, just doing the mystical experience one again. And all of a sudden I feel my cat rub against my leg, and my eyes shoot open, because I'm like, I thought I took them out of the room, and here they are, back in here, doing what they do. And there was no cat there. So I went back into my meditation pretty easily. And when I was finished with it, I looked on my phone, and my Google Photos had compiled, my photos had compiled a memory bank of pictures. And the only animals in it were my cat, Tinky, who had passed away about 6 months now, and my dog, Harley, who had passed away a few months before that. And they were in every single picture together, and it was just them. And I have other animals, and I have tons of animals on my phone. So this was just really a confirmation to me that it was probably Tinky was there and meditating with me.